Gather round and welcome back to another edition of Todd Talks College Football. That's right, folks. We are into the Week 13 Predictor Show here on Todd Talks College Football. And when we are just 2 weeks away from this season ending, going into the championship game, and then into the playoffs is super exciting. So let's see what we're going to do here. Last week, we were 7-6 overall in our 13 picks, and we missed a couple of those over-unders by a point or two. They're tricky when you're picking all these games. So 7-6 is better than we did the couple prior weeks where we were more like 500 or a little under that 1 week. So there we go. We're going to break into this. We got 6 solid games that, it's not a super great weekend. Overall, we got championship or rivalry weekend really next weekend, starting on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's going to be a great week for sure. But we're going to get into these 6 picks. Plus, we'll pick the Buckeyes over-under. We can only pick the over-under. We can't do the points with the Buckeyes. It's just too many points to think about when you're giving up 30-plus points a game. So, bottom line here is 7-6 last week. We're going to try to get to, what do we got here? 12 picks, 13 picks. We're going to try to get to 9-4 this week. That's the goal here. All right, let's get started. We got Tennessee on the road to Florida, and Tennessee hasn't won in Florida for a long damn time, so we're going to see if they can do it. Florida's getting 3.5 at home here in this game, and 57.5 over-under. Tennessee really has to win this game. They got Vanderbilt next week, and they can't go here if they could potentially lose to Vanderbilt. They surely can't lose to Florida and Vanderbilt in back-to-back weeks. I think they probably are going to win both those games, honestly. But 3.5 with the Florida Gator defense at home. Is DJ Lagway going to be, at all efficient in this game? Tennessee's defense is not very good, so there's a very good chance that he can be efficient in this game. I'm still going to go with Tennessee to finally win in the Swamp, and I'm going to go ahead and give the 3.5 points. I've seen enough of the Gators' defense to know that they are just absolutely spectacular, but when it comes to Florida's offense, it's just absolutely terrible. 57.5 is the over-under in this game. I'm going to go the under here. I think Tennessee wins this game somewhere in the 31-17 type of range, 31-21, somewhere in there. So I'm going to go under to 57.5 in the Tennessee v. Florida game. Let's move on to Oklahoma. That's right. Norman, Oklahoma. We got Missouri rolling into town there. The Tigers to take on the Sooners there. We got a -7.5 with Oklahoma at home and an over-under at 41.5. They're really expecting this to be a low-scoring game. So I think Oklahoma's going to have a little bit of a hangover coming back off of the win against Alabama last week. It's just natural that, a road win like that, you come back the next day and play a little, the next week a little bit less than what you think that you're going to play. And Missouri's a pretty good football team, although Missouri's strength is rushing the football and Oklahoma's strength is stopping the rush, unlike last week where, Alabama really didn't have too much of a run game, although they did rush for their biggest yardage of the year, but only 80 yards. So I think what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and take Missouri in the 7.5. I think Oklahoma on the money line is a good pick too. So I think we'll take 7.5 in Missouri. We'll take Oklahoma on the money line. And I do think this is going to be an under 41.5 game. I think this is going to be a low-scoring affair between these two programs. So I'm going to go ahead and take the under 41.5. So the money line in Oklahoma, the points in Missouri, and the under 41.5 in the Missouri at Oklahoma game on Saturday. Let's look at another game here that has potential playoff implications, although you wouldn't think that when I tell you the two names. But SMU still has a chance here to play their way into the ACC title game and win that game and potentially get to the college football playoff. Not saying it's going to happen, but there is a potential. So we have Louisville rolling down into Dallas there and playing SMU. SMU -2.5 in this game. Over under at 52.5. Louisville pretty much season's over after a couple weeks ago when they lost that game to who'd they lose to? Cal on that home game a couple weeks ago. That pretty much knocked them out of the chance to play in the ACC championship game. SMU's got a lot to play for here, so I like SMU minus the 2.5 in this game against Louisville playing at home. And I got an over 52.5 here. I think there's going to be some points scored. I'm looking at this game to be somewhere in the 35 to 27 type of game here. I think Louisville will be able to score some points. I think SMU will put some points up. So I'm going to go SMU minus the 2.5 in the over-under of 52.5. I'm going to go over in the Louisville at SMU game. Well, let's talk about probably the biggest game of the weekend, and that's right, it is USC traveling to Autzen Stadium to play the Oregon Ducks. And this is a real interesting line here. We got Oregon minus 9.5 at home, and we got an over-under at 59.5. So the one thing that's going to be a real problem here for USC in this football game is their run defense, and Oregon's been running the ball like at will pretty much in these games that they've been playing. So the question is going to be, has USC done anything to, beef up that run defense that they're going to be able to use in this game to stop Oregon at all? I don't know that that's a possibility, folks. I feel like this is one of those games where the 9.5 might be too many. I think Mekhi Lemon is going to have a big day against the secondary of Oregon. I just don't know that USC can score enough and stop the running game enough to win the game, but I do like USC in the 9.5, and I do like Oregon on the money line here. So this is one of those, take the points and take Oregon. So USC plus 9.5, I'm taking that. And I'm going to take Oregon in the money line on this game too. I do think this game is going to be just under 59.5. I don't think they're going to touch 60 points in this game. I think it's probably going to be like a 31 to 24 type of game here with Oregon winning. Again, 6, 7, 8 points is going to be the difference in this game. So I like the 9.5 there. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm taking USC plus the 9.5, Oregon on the money line, and I'm going to go under the 59.5 in the USC-Oregon football game on Saturday. Well, we got quite the game going to happen here in the ACC on Saturday, and that is the Pitt Panthers coming off that beatdown loss they took to Notre Dame last week, going to Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech escaping Boston College with the last-second field goal. Hard to say what's going on with Georgia Tech's defense, but they keep getting themselves in predicament after predicament, and then they got to sneak out a win at the end. We got Georgia Tech minus 2.5 at home, over under at 61.5, and I think this is going to be another big barn burner of a game, folks. I'm going the over 61.5 for sure. I think Pitt will rebound from their game against Notre Dame last week where they didn't really look very good. They actually scored their last point there on the last play of the game where they took a timeout with 4 seconds left just to try to score, and they did. And again, Georgia Tech has been playing to the level of their competition, which is in this instance, I think is going to be a good thing for Georgia Tech. I think they're going to pick up their game from where they were last week against Boston College, and I think they're going to win this football game on the money line. I'm not taking the points here. I'm going to take Georgia Tech in the money line here. I'm not going to give the 2.5 because this could be literally a 1-point game the way that we've seen Georgia Tech this year. And again, I'm going over the 61.5. So I think Pitt has a bounce back day. I think it's just a little not enough here to beat Georgia Tech at the end of the day. You might want to take Pitt in a 2.5. That's up to you. Maybe you can get a 3.5. I'm going to go Georgia Tech in the money line and the over 61.5 in this Pitt versus Georgia Tech football game on Saturday. Another game that we're going to look at here is BYU on the road at Cincinnati, and boy, did Cincinnati lay an egg last week. They had a real shot to get to get to this game here against BYU, beat BYU, and they could have propelled themselves into the Big 12 championship game, but they did not, folks. They came out just flat as can be last week and did not play very well. BYU ended up bouncing back from their loss to Texas Tech a couple weeks ago and getting a win last week. So we got BYU traveling to Cincinnati. We got plus 2.5 for Cincinnati at home and an over-under of 54.5. And I think that Cincinnati is going to have a bounce-back week this week. Coming off that loss last week, I think this is, again, at home for them. I think they're going to be just fired up, ready to go out there, get that home crowd behind them. The home crowd's going to show up, even though they're kind of out of the playoff race now. But BYU is going to bring out the crowd. So I think Cincinnati plus the 2.5 here is the play that I'm going to make. I don't know that Cincinnati's going to win the game. I think they're going to keep it really, really close, though. Maybe a field goal at the end or so where they lose it by 1 or 2. But I'm going to take Cincinnati in the 2.5, and I'm going to go the over 54.5 here. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. And I do think Cincinnati and Sorsby is going to bounce back this week and play a much better football game than they looked last week, which probably ends up potentially winning this game, and then just totally, that game last week would have been just a killer because it does take them out of the Big 12 championship race. So Cincinnati plus the 2.5 in the over 54.5 in the BYU v Cincinnati game on Saturday. All right, folks, we're down to our last game, and this is Rutgers at Ohio State, and there's not much to pick on this. You can take Ohio State in the money line. You won't get any return on that. I think it's 32.5 for the Buckeyes giving up at home against Rutgers, but we're just going to look at the over-under of 55.5 here in this game, and I'm going to go ahead and take this as the under 55.5. We definitely have some issues here at Ohio State with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. I don't know that they're going to play at all in this game. Rutgers does not have a really great run defense. I think we're going to try to bolster this running game more and more and more as they head into Michigan next week. I think that the Buckeyes are going to probably win this game. I don't think they'll give up. Again, they're not giving up more than 10 points to Rutgers to Saturday in the shoe. So the question is, how many points can Ohio State score at 55.5? I think that's right on the. I think they could be 48-6, and it's just a little bit just under that. So I'm going to go the under here of 55.5. Take Ohio State in the under, and they win comfortably, but I don't think they're going to put up as many points this week as they did last week. I think it'll be a little bit less than that, probably somewhere around 42, honestly. And I think they'll give up somewhere around 6 points in this game. So I think we're looking at a 42-6 kind of game, which is 48 points, and that's just under the 55.5. So the Ohio State under 55.5 in the Rutgers-Ohio State football game. All right, folks, well, there you have it. There is our Week 13 College Football Weekly Predictor Show. Hopefully you can win some money. If you don't come complaining to me. Your ducats you're spending. Anyways, remember, gather around in ALTT. We'll see you on Sunday for the 5 thoughts on week number 13 in college football, and we'll get to that, and it'll be rivalry week. We'll have a lot to talk about next week as we get into rivalry week. We got Thanksgiving. We got everything going to go on, so see you soon.